Welcome to another video for WinBidPro version 16 by GDS Estimating. This one I'd like to talk about the glazing options feature that we have in this program, and it's kind of a new thing for version 16, so let's get into it. We have here just a simple elevation using curtain wall with SSG verticals. I actually have 1-inch glazing already assigned to all the daylight openings. And let's go take a look at how that works in the framing system window. So I'm editing the framing system for just this elevation. And if I wanted to kind of update or edit or modify a framing system for the catalog itself so that I can pick it later and use it with all those changes, I'd want to go to this catalog menu and edit the frames from there. Because that's kind of the master level. And if you remember, since these are cloud catalogs, you're basically editing a default catalog or a kind of a manufacturer configuration, and then whatever you change gets saved as a new copy of that configuration. So there's a little flag that tells you if it's a default one or not. But in this case, we're just going to edit the system for this elevation, or this job, because in this version 16, we can tell it whether we want our changes to apply to the entire job or just for the elevation. So, okay, so typically, if a system has the same gasket material on every daylight opening, whether it's, there's different inside or outside, or even if it's the same inside and out, that can usually be put in the glazing gasket component here. And you can put the part number once in a quantity of 2, and that would mean that the same gasket is used inside and out. Or you can just put 2 different part numbers for a different one inside and a different one outside. So that's one way to do it, where every daylight opening gets the same gasket. Now in this case, we don't want that because we have an SSG vertical which doesn't get that kind of gasket. So when we migrated systems from the version 15 catalog, so all the version 15 vendors were migrated to version 16, we basically said, okay, so take the gasket that was being used in the different components and keep them in the component. Like the head gasket is assigned to the head assembly, and it's used twice because it's both inside and out. And same thing for the jamb, inside and out, it's applied. Now you'll notice for something like a horizontal, it's applied 4 times. So it's inside and out on both the top and bottom of the horizontal. Same thing would go for a captured vertical, but in this case it's SSG. So we have our gasket being applied twice, because if we look at it, it is going to be on each side where the glass is. So we've got one, and in this case it's more spacer, but it's still spacer gasket. It's applied to each place where the glass is touching the frame, basically. So we need 2 of those, and that's configured here. So there's another way to do that. So that's one way to do it. Or actually 2 ways. I talked about the glazing gasket component, and then we can assign gasket to each assembly. And now the problem, so let me just say this, the problem with assigning gasket like this, both inside and out, to, let's say, a jamb, is it's going to give you a cut length of gasket for the entire cut length of the jamb. So it's not really the daylight opening, it's the length of the jamb in this case. So this will actually give you a little too much gasket. So obviously it's better more than not enough, but if you really want to dial in the gasket material and have different things like SSG verticals, or in this case, the whole point of this video is to talk about different thicknesses of glass as well. So if we're looking at this system here, this is a tube light system that has a bunch of different thicknesses of glass. You can have 1/8-inch glass with adapters, 3/16 glass, 5/16. We can really have a ton of different 7/16, 3/8. So all those different glass thicknesses can be applied to this frame using adapter extrusions and possibly different gasket. So what we've done in version 16 is create the Glazing Options tab, which is right here. So now if I wanted to add the different options, just like in that tube light detail example, for all those different thicknesses of glass, I can do that by just hitting Add Option. Now let's say I want to add a 3/8 glass option. Now in this case, I don't know the part offhand, for the glazing gasket that's needed for 3/8 glass. So I can just kind of search by clicking that Browse, and I'm just going to pick any old gasket here, but this Browse Parts button, as long as my cursor is kind of flashing in a certain spot, it will kind of fill that field in as soon as I find the part and select it here. So I'm just going to pick a different one just so they're different. And then the actual adapter extrusion, same thing. I can browse for that part. So I'm configuring all the different parts needed for different glass thickness in a certain daylight opening. So if I can type in adapter, then let's just say it's this one. So okay, let's say I only need one piece of adapter, or extrusion of adapter, like it showed in the other detailed drawing, and then we can do our setting block. So if I want to pick if it needs a different setting block, I can find that and pick it. And then I just want to give this a label. So this is for, oops, have to tab over or click in this field here. So 3/8, I'll call it standard. We can do the inch mark too, and I'll just put abbreviation. So there I've configured my 3/8 glass glazing options for a captured component. So any captured daylight opening, that's going to use this stuff.